Oseo.
Oseo.
Cherokee greeting. And Yate. That is the Navajo greeting. It's a Navajo chant. Ho 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 henne ya henne ya. Ho 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 henne ya henne ya. Henne ya yo. Ho 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 henne ya henne ya we henne ya ho ho. May it live, may it live. The song says that's a Navajo song for the baby. And that's what we're starting with. A new dawn is now in the awakening of an awareness of spiritual power. The vital forces of the earth and sky exist in readiness to help recreate that power in this time of need. So that's my theme today. Coyote Talks is Coyote Talks Medicine today. And the first thing I'm starting off with, we are still in the new year, and you have heard from me, the Celtic presence in Native America and Turtle Island. And the Celtic presence has been here for a very long time. It is evident from the writings on the rocks all over Turtle Island that Celtic people had come from the east, from across the Atlantic to Turtle Island a long time ago, and that people also came from the west, that is across the Pacific, to Turtle Island. And they definitely have mixed together here and there, and the Navajo show incidents in their language and lore of something of that presence. So that's what I bring together here. Now the first thing I'm starting with is right up here. This is a petroglyph. I actually personally found it in eastern California, east of Olancha. There, it's a little tiny town there in eastern California. The whole region to the east of 395 there, kind of mountains and all kind of rock outcrops, and have thousands and thousands and thousands of petroglyphs over a very, very long distance. And many of these are in the form of, or have pictures of what we call, bighorn sheep, and many other things. Some of these are definitely, Celtic. Celtic by way of the language and the system of writing that identifies them as that. And this is one of those. Now the title for this is actually Gabrolem. Gabrol means goat, and it does look like a goat. But as far as I know, that animal, goats, were not here in this part of the world or this part of the country. But if you see the bighorn sheep, there are the bucks that have the big curled horns. But the females don't have those curled horns. They have horns that are more like a goat. And it well could be that people just transferred the Gaelic name for goat to these female bighorn sheep, if I have that right, like that. Gabrolem also means, in the Gaelic custom, that the people in the British Isles especially still have a lot of nomenclature in terms of sheep, what they are and how to take care of them and so forth, like that. So Gabrolem also means leap of the sperm. So that's what we have, and we're having this for the new year. And so when you look up here at this, it's on a rock, and on that rock there's a bevel. In other words, what I've colored in here is actually, like a bevel, like that. And the inscriber has taken advantage of that in order to correctly make this relation, so that these two legs are above the line and those two legs are crossing the line, so that these form two Gaelic letters of L and G. And then it has what we call a diphthong in the language of Ogham. Ogham is the system of writing in the Celtic that uses these forms. So the head up there is the diphthong that looks like an X that I showed last week that would be pronounced yeah. And here this is very unique there with his little thingamajig like that. There's this little feature in the rock that looks just like that, and the inscriber has made his thingamajig for the diphthong oi, oi. And then the various lines in there really figure as the ogam using oi, and then there would be oi sin and oi sig. So like that. And then the horns are the D. So that's the way that this is reading. Rebus is a French word from the word res, meaning thing. So rebus is making a picture using letters to say what it is that the letters say. So that's how that this has all been arranged like this. And also the shape of this, and there are other petroglyphs in the region that use this shape. It's a horned spoon, a spoon made out of a horn. People, even when I was in my childhood, could make that out of a cow's horn. You know, so it's a ladle. That's a ladle, and that has meaning in this also. So the ladle is called lang liang, and it means a full ladle. He's a ladleful. It's a way of saying, in the Celtic way of he's brave. He's brave because he's taking this leap over. And so up there, the two horns that use the letter D, they're, you know, like that to say it, G-I-O, deer. So that's the way that's saying that in the Gaelic language. So the whole thing says Gial Osin Osig. Osig means a yearling. And dear little nook, continuance for the year, is how that this is reading. So that this is a very good message for our beginning of the year. Now with that, I'm going into something that's more of the Navajo, like that. Navajo is a kind of a Spanish name for these people, Natine, meaning really the people. And the roots of their language and things in their culture and so forth suggest that their predecessors have come from across the Pacific and may have originated in the area of Khotan. It's in the, I'm trying to say, west of the Himalayas. It goes down into an area called the Tarim Basin. So that's evident in the roots of their language and in the lore, just to say who they are. Their main area is northern Arizona and into New Mexico, and this area is called Dinata, and that they have totally vitalized, you know, this area, this region, in a, well, like saying a mythical way. Everything has been personified, you know, as living in that. And so that's all what I'm presenting here. There are three kinds of people: snake men, coyote men, star men. Snake is awakening, coyote is the animal, and a star man is the sky power or spirituality. Now each of these, you know, have lineage. You know, the snake lineage, you know, the Ani Inaru, and then the Ani Waya, the coyote, and then the Ani Nagosi, the star people. And then these in turn represent the three vitalities. The Mulisig, Dio, Susoi. Those are the three vitalities. So the vitality of the snake in awakening, first of all, is the prime mover. And as the prime mover, then in the present time, this becomes a vital a vital force, a vital energy of now an emerging personality for us all. Emerging personality to meet a new dawn, a new body of life, as we will call it. And that's my main theme here today, is to really emphasize that in the view of all that's going on in the world and in this nation. This nation is still a nation in Turtle Island, and that is, the font of Coyote here. Coyote is also Earth Boy and also son of Sky Snake. And so today I'm also the tongue of Sky Snake. And if you look right here, this is the rainbow, that's the sleep, and that is the tongue of Sky Snake, the rainbow. I'm bringing as much together in this presentation so as to generate a real spiritual potency. And that's the sort of thing that I have going on here. This here is my painting. This painting is depicting the great white snake woman. So that's Alsan Delicioso Ligai, the white snake woman. And she is also an attribute of changing woman. She is her attribute and her guardian as well. We have a full view of that. And that this is the chant to accompany that. Great white snake woman, arise to protect me with your white flint shoes. Arise to protect me with your white flint leggings. Arise to protect me with your white flint garment. Arise to protect me with your white flint hat. With your white bow, with your white arrow, your white flint knife. With these you shall arise to protect me. Then I can arise behind you. Then I shall be recovered behind you. Then I am fully restored behind you. Dangerous beings have not found me. Let that which conceals you also conceal me. Let that which causes you to be invisible also cause me to be invisible. Behind these I am not found. Behind these I am not found. Dangerous beings have not found me. Dangerous beings have not found me. Dangerous beings have not found me. Pooh! Another part of this great snake is here, this replica of a Hogan that Claudia and Aaron have made together. The Hogan, not actually to say Hugan. For one, it's the symbol of home. So it's home, and what everything that home is. Home is, of course, security and warmth, like a fire, and food. So it's very significant in all that way. It is, like a hexagon in all of that. It derives from or stems from the mountains, which were the habitat of the Yabache. Yabache is like the maternal grandfather. And so we're saying his habitat is in the mountains, and that this is transferred in that way to here. And that this is also the Hogan of White Snake. And from the White Snake Hogan, kind feelings will come forth as we go about in life. And as we are so guided, we are so respected, as well as we will find protection in all the places as we live on. So you can see the Hogan is very, very significant in all of this. And that's the kind of sense that we're saying we return to. Over here, there's a Navajo pot. The style of that with the two spots on it has been sort of generally called, you know, a wedding vase. On it is carved corn, ears of corn. This was first kind of created by Fei Cao over there in Dinata. And what it means here is life. The corn means life. And I have this pine bough here to stand for Cho'o, that is called the frond of life. And the basket, Sa, this basket is, for us, is very significant. In Dinata, near Kienta, Claudia was very, you know, admired, celebrated as a white shell woman, Atsa Yogai. And they totally, you know, dressed her up with a white skirt and this basket, and in that way she was a healthcare worker who took care of the Navajo children there. And the basket, Americans call it wedding basket, but it actually is, you know, the crystal star basket. And the story of the crystal star is in the basket, all those designs there. The Navajos seem to have been coming from the west here, San Diego, across to that region, to the Chuksai Mountains, where that they saw what you might think of as a comet that went and landed in the Chuksai Mountains. And when they went up there and checked on it, they found a giant crystal. And then they made a demarcation around it and so forth. But the whole story that's in that basket is also significant here. Now above that, this is the Star of Peace. The Star of Peace is where all these things come together to a center. And so any of the lines that are, or paths, whatever you want to call it, or forces coming together have to stop there. And because they have to stop in, you know, the face of each other, then that ends all conflict. So then that's why it's called the Star of Peace at this time. I would say in short, what our new president, Joe Biden, has said, and other people are saying of him over and over, I would say this star, you know, stands for that, stands for his idea of everybody coming together and having peace and unity, so that we have all of that. With the idea of peace, we can go over here to this pipe over here. This is made by a Cherokee man. His father was also a Cherokee pipe maker, and it's very significant to me. They're the Cherokee mythical serpent, which also had appeared to me in a dream, is called Uktena. Uktena is often figured with crystal eyes and a horn, and that's very significant as a Cherokee serpent pipe, Uktena. And below it I have what we would call the tobacco pouch, where you can see the different color directions, you know, in that, you can see that in that way. Above here, this is a Yaqui mask for the serpent. I can't remember the name, but the Yaquis also have the sacred serpent, very similar to Uktena, and that is a ceremonial mask from the Yaquis. Now I have another piece here to go with this. Oh, great white snake, who comes with a buzzing sound. Sounds like the blowing of the wind, close to your feet he moves, sounding. Snake rattle close to your head, sounding. Snake rattle towards the east wind. Snake rattle towards the west wind. And snake rattle to the winds of the cedars. Into the days of peace and beauty, as you make of me your body. In the days of peace and beauty, surely we will come together. Oh. Vivian mentioned after my talk last week that the last part of my talk I said we're in a trough, like between waves. I was also a shipborne sailor, and I really had spent a lot of time watching the swells and troughs and waves like that. It's really, really quite mysterious and a very good metaphor for things. People in the world, tend to find security in hanging on to certain things. But change in this very moving world is inevitable. So those troughs, are going to move, and the watercraft that goes up and down over them, is also going to bear that motion. So that has a lot to do with the way that I'm thinking about this present time. We have, continued, and we have survived over, who knows, eons and eons. Well, I should say also, I go back to this star piece is also figured as Venus, the planet Venus. The planet Venus is the only planet up there that goes in another direction. It goes from east to west. And what that means in this sense is that this contrariness has a certain sense of a return in it, and this return has to do with all that we are looking at to recreate anything that's going like that, to restore. It can say restore the democracy or normality, all this. So the planet Venus, with this kind of backwards movement, is the symbol for the peace star. So that's very significant with that. I'm going to have here a Mary Oliver poem that comes from her book, White Pine. It's a very curiously written poem here in the book because there was no punctuation whatsoever. And she's written 1, 2, 3, 4 of these verses in a kind of a 45 diagonal like that. Again, with no punctuation or capitalizations or anything. So in that way it offers, the reading to come out of the reader. Stories. Do you know the old stories about the stars, the hunter and dog, swan, crab, dragon, lion, big bear and little bear, the 7 sisters there on the horizon? Call it pleasure, call it comfort, call it rinsing out the dread all night long. The silence of the heavens remain intractable. The darkness is more dark than black. Of the moon's silver eye and heavy as lead. This is why there are so many stories to draw each star into the mouth for a single minute, to feel that white fire against the teeth, bearable, even, intimate, what happens next? We say, what happens next? And why does it happen? And what happens then? Because that has happened. Lifting up the darkness by that much, the sun shone.
Mm.